Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's talk by Petr Klíma. The subject is Adolf Loos in Pilsen, the interiors. I am Peter Jameson, chairman of the Czech Friends of Czech Heritage. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with the Friends, we are a charity dedicated to the conservation of Czech historic buildings and artifacts. And you can find full details about us on our website, including, most importantly, details of how to donate to our cause. You'll also find details of our future events. I would particularly draw your attention to our outing to Salisbury and Longford Castle on the 28th of July. There are still places on this tour which I think will be quite interesting for most of you if you'd like to come along. Before we start, can I ask you to mute your microphones? I think you've probably already been muted. If you have questions, please post them in the chat box or indicate by using the flag, and we will take questions at the end of the talk. The talk will be recorded and will be available on our website. You may now wish to turn off your camera. And so to the talk. Adolf Loos, was a native of Brno, was one of the great pioneers of modern architecture in the period before and after the First World War. He practiced alongside such names as Otto Wagner, Joseph Hoffmann, and Josef Plečnik, to name but a few, during that cosmopolitan period in the Austro-Hungarian Empire just before and leading up to the First World War. But Loos was not an internationalist and pursued his own powerful design objectives. For me, the way he put buildings together and his choice of materials and detailing are his hallmark. Petr Klíma is an architect and historian. He graduated from the Faculty of Arts at the University of West Bohemia, the Faculty of Architecture of the Czech Technical University and the Academy of Arts, and Architecture Design in Prague. He is editor and co-author of publications and exhibitions Kotovy Mai, and in particular, Czech department stores 1965 to 1975, and with Regina Zhitova, the architect of houses and things. In his doctoral studies at the Academy of Arts in Prague, he focused on the architecture of the Czechoslovak embassies built in the period between 1948 and 1989, which would include the now quite well-known embassy in London, which was the subject of a recent talk, a film by the put out by the Czech Centre in London. And I recommend you try and look at that. It's very interesting. In the years 2011 to 2015, Petr was a member of the Pilsen European Capital of Culture team. He is vice chairman of the association Foster the City, where he organizes events and projects related to architecture, primarily the project Pilsen Architectural Manual. Incidentally, he will be addressing us from Pilsen, which seems very appropriate. So thank you, Peter, and welcome. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter and Robert and Dave. It's a pleasure and honor for me to present to all of you the Loos work here in Pilsen. I was prepared to speak about Adolf Loos at first, and I'm still prepared. I just would like to say that I'm not a professional Loosian. I'm not an expert of Adolf Loos or on Adolf Loos. I just happen to live in Pilsen. I just happen to work on the Pilsen Architecture Manual, which is a project that that we created here in Pilsen in 2014, 2015, and we decided to devote one of the trails or paths that go throughout the city and that map and interpret the architecture of the years of 1914 to 1948, devote to Adolf Loos. It's not only about Adolf Loos, it's also about his collaborators, about younger colleagues of his. Among those are or were Heinrich Kulka, Karel Hotta, Norbert Krieger, Boživoj Kriegerberg, and some others. So what I'm going to show you today is not only work of Adolf Loos, but also of his colleagues who were influenced by him very, very much. The lecture will not be rigid or too serious lecture that I would give to you. I will rather try to show you around the interiors, and I will use the PAM website for that, because we got together a sum of photographs of the interiors, but also of the archive materials, and also some plans. So I will show you whatever we have online, and afterwards, if you are interested, you can go through that and you can guide yourself along the Adolf Loos path, if you wish. But as Petr Jamieson has already said, the Pilsen Architecture Manual could offer you a lot more, because there are at the moment 8 more paths in English and about 15 more in Czech language, because we as much as we try to put all the texts, all the information there online in both languages, Czech and English, it doesn't go quite in parallel time. But anyway, if you are interested in architecture of Pilsen, in architecture of this period, which is mostly interwar period, you can go freely. Along the path. Peter has already presented a short biography of Loos that accentuated the main points. I will try to go a little bit deeper, but not as deep as but not so deep to have some time for the Pilsen works. Adolf Loos was born, as you may already know, in 1870 in Brno, which is located in the Czech Republic, into the family of stonemason and sculptor. And this initial fact is quite important, because he was able to establish a very close relationship to materials, to plain but quality, or we can even say luxurious material, stone at the first place. He was not a very good student, so he switched schools as he grew up. He spent his grammar school years in Brno, in his hometown, but was not very successful. So he moved to Jihlava, and then to Melk, and then to Liberec, and finished his high school back in Brno. Then he applied to architecture school at the Technical University of Vienna. Afterwards, he moved to Dresden in Germany, where he started. where he started studying architecture at the Academy of Applied Arts.
Well, thank you so much. Very good. Right. Thank you.
Then he moved to the US because studying architecture in that traditional way, it means following the historical patterns, was not very interesting to him, and he tried to escape this academia world and to find sources of modern architecture and also modern lifestyle in the America. He moved to his relatives. He had an uncle in the vicinity of Philadelphia, where he spent some time. But since he was not a person that you would get along with very easily, he moved after some time to New York, when he spent most of his 3 years stay in the United States. It wasn't easy for him to find his place there and to find a job at the first place. He was not successful in finding a place as an architect. He worked as a draftsman for some time, but I think that mostly he worked as washer, if I can say, of dishes, and it was really quite a hard time for him. But still, he had the unique opportunity to get to know American architecture and modern American lifestyle, and that influenced him substantially. And after 1896, when he came back to Vienna and settled down there, he transferred this knowledge and this experience into the very bourgeois of Viennese circles. In Vienna, he was able to find a work as an architect at the studio of the architect and urbanist Karl Meidreder. But a year later, he founded his own design studio. However, it took him some time to find his first or to get his first admission. It was the famous Café Museum at the very end of the 19th century. What was more important for him at the time than his architecture work was his work as a publicist, because he became part of the circle of Viennese intellectuals. He became friends with Karl Kraus, Peter Altenberg, also the musician Arnold Schoenberg, or the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. And he did, in discussions with them, he crystallized his very sarcastic view of the then culture in Central European city of Vienna. Especially, he developed a sharp criticism of secession, Art Nouveau style, and of Viennese bourgeois taste. His first realization that made him famous, so to say, or that made him known even in the wider public in Vienna, was the famous Goldman and Salatsch department store, or as you may know it, Loos House. I will show you the picture of the building, which embodies the main principles of Adolf Loos' works. It means you may already know Adolf Loos as someone who rejected or despised ornament. He wrote a famous essay, Ornament and Crime, in 1908. In this building, or in the facade of the building, you can see that it was mostly right, at least for the upper part of the building where the flats were located. You can see very pure, or maybe you can say purist facade, very plain and simple, just a network of windows. But you can see kind of an ornament applied to the parterre and the first floor of the building, and this is the ornament of the stone, of the marmor itself. So it's the, so to say, drawing of the material that Loos used, and this was very, in his eyes, it was adequate to show the quality or the high level of the department store itself. It was kind of a representative architecture. It was what matters, what represented the building. It was not this part, the upper part with flats. It was this part with the department store itself. You can also see that the front facade is symmetrical. He was, maybe we can say it, obsessed with axial symmetry, and he was willing to create kind of spatial illusions just to follow the order of symmetry. You can also see his inspiration in classic architecture. You can see the columns that are clearly inspired by Doric style of Greek ancient architecture. This was also a very strong source of knowledge and inspiration for him. If I can go very fast forward, we can say that he was really a pioneer of modern architecture, but he didn't reject the traditional architecture or the architectural tradition. He was he used the distilled experience of the centuries of traditional architecture. He transformed it, he used it, he transformed it in his own way. After 1910, when the Goldman and Salatsch department store was finished, he got finally more commissions. He also was a target of sharp criticism of general public, because this house, Goldman and Salatsch house, was not liked. He was not liked by the Kaiser that lived right against this building in Hofburg Palace. But we can say he was, the building was a manifestation. It was provocative, as Loos himself was, and also as his texts, his publicist work was. And it was at the time radical. It wasn't the same case 20 years later, when he was almost at the end of his life, and when great architects as Le Corbusier or Mies van der Rohe dictated the taste, if I can say, and moved the younger generation to the ideals of let's say functionalism or truly modern architecture that radically departed itself from tradition. Loos was not, but in 1910, this was a radical gesture. Loos wanted it that way, but he really believed in these ideals. I mentioned modern lifestyle. This building corresponds a lot as a symbol of modern architecture to the principles of modern life. The modern life shouldn't shouldn't be or shouldn't correspond to ideals of the 19th century in terms of fashion design, for instance, or the objects of daily use, but it should correspond to the very modern or truly modern way of life after the fin de siècle, the end of a long 19th century. In 1912, he, despite that he didn't finish his architecture school, he established his own school of architecture in Vienna. And there were some young architects or architecture students like Paul Engelmann or aforementioned Heinrich Kulka or Richard Neutra or Rudolf Michael Schindler, who attended his school and who later became leading figures of the architecture of the 20th century. It's also significant when mentioning Engelmann and Kulka, Neutra and Schindler, that all of them emigrated from Austria or in Kulka's case from the Czech Republic or then Czechoslovakia to either New Zealand or Israel or the United States. In the early 1920s, Loos was appointed as the chief architect of the municipal settlement office in Vienna. And because of that, he devoted his time to designs of functional and economical family housing and experimental terrace building, for instance. So he focused not on unique and also quite expensive buildings, but on creating quality inner environment for wider public, for masses of people. In 1924, he moved to Paris because of his business with Jan Vaněk and the United Works of Decorative Art that were located in Brno, because he was commissioned to take care of business of the United Works of Decorative Art in Paris. He was not very good in selling their stuff, but it gave him the opportunity to meet Adolf Loos, to meet Le Corbusier, for instance, and also to get some substantial commissions, like a house for famous Dadaist artist Tristan Tzara. It was the only one realizations that took place there in Paris. Another one, the house for Josephine Baker, remained unrealized. After those 4 years spent in Paris, he came back to Vienna and also to Czechoslovakia. He was very active in Pilsen in the late 20s, as I will show you. Maybe Pilsen was the place with the most of his works at that time. He also designed the famous Villa Müller for the owner or half owner of the construction company Müller and Kapsa that originated in Pilsen. When he was 60 years old, there was an exhibition held in Vienna, and leading personalities of European culture life addressed Adolf Loos as one of the leading figures of then architecture and culture. He also received a financial award and an honorary pension from the Czechoslovak state, which was very significant and important for him, because he, during his lifetime, struggled with money. He suffered with weak health during the last years of his life, because he got syphilis when he was young and wasn't able to have kids because of the cure, and it also caused some other troubles that he had. It was one of the reasons that he didn't make the plans himself. He had a lot of work. He traveled a lot, especially in those last years of his life, and he also didn't want to. He wasn't a great drawer, so he sketched his designs, his ideas, and people like Heinrich Kulka or Karel Hotta developed the building plans. I would add two more remarks. Adolf Loos was exceptional in receiving inputs from outer world in looking at things and thinking of them. It was special at the time when he was in the States. He absorbed so much of the modern lifestyle and modern architecture as well, that he could use the sum of the knowledge and experience throughout of his whole life. He was a great, how to put it, watcher or looker at things, sorry for that, but he also was a great thinker, so he wasn't able just to look at things, but to make some very robust and very influential thoughts. Okay, he died in a sanatorium near Vienna. He was also buried there, and his last work of or the last work of his was a tombstone that was made according to his own design. He claimed that a tombstone was, apart from a memorial, the only item of architecture which can be called art, unlike architecture itself. So drawing buildings, drawing interiors was not art, according to him. This view that architecture is not art adopted the new generation of younger architects, especially the functionalists. But it would be a mistake to say or to think that Adolf Loos was as modern as Le Corbusier, for instance, or that even that he was a functionalist architect. He paid great attention to the functional planning of space, but he paid great attention to the construction of space. He composed the space, he became he came up with the concept of Raumplan that rested upon arranging individual spaces at different heights. And also, I have already mentioned his adherence to tradition of our architecture, to the order of symmetry. Also, his admiring of natural ornaments of material. So Adolf Loos, we can say that he was a pioneer of modern architecture, but he was not a functionalist, to make it very, very simple. Right, let's get back to the Adolf Loos works here in Pilsen. I will start chronologically. So I will show you the flat of Martha and Wilhelm Hirsch. They commissioned Adolf Loos in 1997 because Rosa Hirsch, who was a sister of Wilhelm Hirsch, married into the family of Karl Kraus, the philosopher and publicist, who was a close friend to Adolf Loos. So through this relation, Adolf Loos came to Pilsen. As you can see, the flat is located in a historicist house, which was quite the case in other realizations. It was a 5-room apartment. Wilhelm Hirsch was a successful entrepreneur. He was a factory owner, and he was a Jew, and these facts, Jewish origin and successful business, were the marks of Loos's clients in Pilsen. Also, because of their origin, they wanted to stay a bit hidden. They didn't want to show off their wealth. They didn't want to build themselves a villa in the suburb. They wanted to have a very comfortable, very high-profile interior space. And Adolf Loos, in the first decade of the 20th century, was in the circles very well known for his ability to fulfill the needs of such clients. They, on the other hand, were able to give him a free hand in organizing the space and in giving the space the right form, the right according to laws. The Hirsch's flat was one of the first realizations where Loos used timeless, precious materials. When he also joined spaces onto an axis going through the whole flat. When I mentioned the materials, I should tell you the details. So the flat is or has not survived to these days, so you can't see it. I can't show you the photographies of the flat now, but I can show you the historical photos. Here you can see the pictures in 1930, and that show the Baroque inspired and enfilade. This is the principle of orienting or putting the spaces on the longitudinal axis. You can see the Scarian marble in the dining room. You can also see the cherry wood here that were on the walls, on the cladding of, or used for the cladding of the walls of the living room. As I have said, the flat didn't survive because the family of Hirsch moved out or emigrated from Pilsen, from Czechoslovakia, because of the Nazi regime, and the house was appropriated by the state, and the large flat was divided into number of smaller flats. But if we talk about the apartment of family of Hirsch, we need to add another realization, and this is the flat that you can see on the pictures, or at the pictures. This was the flat of Hirsch's son Richard. It's not 100%, or we can't say or we can't be 100% sure, but we can say it with very high degree of probability that it was Adolf Loos again who came back to the same building almost 20 years later, and designed this smaller flat for Richard Hirsch. It was in the upper part. I forgot to say that the Hirsch's apartment was located in the Piano Nobile. It means in the first floor of the building. It took the whole floor, the area of the whole floor. The Richard Hirsch apartment was located just into 2 rooms, because Loos and his collaborators designed it for him when he was 18 years old. He was a student of law, and he didn't need a kitchen, for instance, because he got food from the servants of his parents, and he also was invited to dine in the dining room in the flat of his parents. So it was a bachelor's flat with a living room, which you can see here, and a bedroom that you can see there. The installation that you can see in the pictures is not original, because in the late 80s or in the 90s, it was, so to say, cut out and moved to Prague. And you can go to Adolf Loos apartment and gallery in Prague and see and experience the original installation, the original built-in furniture. So this was an installation of students from Technical University in Stuttgart. They designed a bachelor flat in a modern way. It was a sort of their interpretation of a modern or contemporary flat for one person, and it was obviously inspired by forms that Loos used in his designs. There was a small bathroom, and that was all. That was the whole flat. As I have already said, Martha and Wilhelm Hirsch fled to Australia in 1939. Their son Richard escaped as well. He and his wife found refuge in Argentina. The house now is in the ownership of the city of Pilsen. It wasn't accessible for a long time, but now there are days, a few days in the year that it is accessible, and it should be accessible once in a month from now on. Another work of Loos that he designed in this, let's say, first period of his, because we can divide Loos works here in Pilsen into two parts. So first works he designed in the first decade of the 20th century, and then, as I have said, he came back in the second part of the 20th century, of the 20s, and the Richard Hirsch apartment was one of more than half a dozen flat or interior works of his. The second work of Adolf Loos in Pilsen was the apartment for family of Becks. It was moved from the original place to another place, which I have shown you. Maybe I can get back to the location. The flat of Wilhelm and Martha Hirsch was located in the Placheho Street. This is right here when I am where the little hand is. The other flat of Olga and Otto Beck was located here, so just around the corner. The Klatovská třída, maybe I should show you the map. The Klatovská třída, or the Klatovská Avenue, goes through the whole city from the north to the south, and you can see that most of Loos's work or Loos's works are located onto the axis, onto or along the street. Only a few of them are not to be found directly in the street, but anyway, they are still in the center of Pilsen. This is the very historical, the medieval center of Pilsen, with its main square with a Gothic cathedral, and it's not coincidence that Loos's clients lived and wanted to keep living in the city center, because it was the representative part of the city, and the Klatovská Avenue was the main boulevard of the city. It was the place where you would go for a walk, you would represent yourself, where representative buildings were located. So and also it was the axis of one of the axis of the development of the city in the interwar era. So there was a colony of villas and double houses, or even terraced houses, and that's also why in the later in the second era or part of Loos's work here in Pilsen, these three realizations were created, because in 1907 or 1905 this building, for instance, was non-existing. To the back flat on the Klatovská street, this is a small city palace. It was built in the 19th century, and it was also a place where a family of Friedlers lived. Their daughter Steffi or Stepanka married Josef Vogel, and they wanted to have a luxurious apartment in the house. What you can see, those pictures here, they show you how two rooms of the flat look like. You can't see the original flat, the Otto and Olga Beck's flat. That was the second work of Loos in Pilsen. It was designed before 1910. The reason that Beck's commissioned Loos with this design was that he were good friends with the Hirsch family, and this was the case with all of his clients in Pilsen. They were all Jew, they were all businessmen, and they were good friends, or they were relatives too. So this is the way how he got the commissions. The flat, as you can see it here, is or it can remind us the flat of the Beck family. This is the picture of the Beck's flat, taken shortly before it was deinstalled and moved to another location. So you can see the fireplace. I haven't mentioned it yet, but fireplace was a substantial part of an interior for Loos. Aside of his inspiration in classic architecture, he was hugely influenced by Anglo-Saxon architecture, especially by the so-called English house. So in the realizations we can find both those sources of inspiration. However, we can't limit the inspirations or the forms that Loos used only to those two sources. As you can see, and as you will see, he was very able to use various examples of furniture design from various part of history of design. Christopher Long talks about the art of sorting of his, that he worked quite freely with ornaments that were put onto or part of the carpets. I have already mentioned the ornament that was part of the materials themselves. So it was carpets, it was chairs and armchairs from Biedermeier, or even inspired by Egyptian Egyptian little tools and chairs, tables that were taken from the 19th century design. He combined it quite freely, and he also was willing to let the owners or users of the space to come up with their ideas. Or but still, he kept the main ideas, he kept the main principles, he used the actual symmetry, the materials, and so on. It was his design, but he was not as dogmatic or rigid as were, for example, the architects of Art Nouveau or Secession in Vienna. And he criticized this way of thinking, this way of designing, that architects design everything, that architects came up with the concept of Gesamtkunstwerk, so that they designed the whole interior up to the little spoons, that they didn't allow the owners to have picture hung up on the wall according to their own taste. He wasn't that dogmatic. He could work with his clients, and his clients know that he's very good, and that he can create a space very noble, very luxurious, but still very livable, so that they will feel very good, and they will be satisfied with the space even after 20 or 30 or more years. The Vogels flat that Loos designed in the very same space 20 years later, so in the late 20s. The picture was taken in 1930. You can see the variety of furniture here. As I mentioned, Raumplan as the principle in which Loos worked with various heights of various spaces, so that each space had the height corresponding to its significance in the whole spatial concept, and also corresponding to the function of the space. We can say we can see kind of a reflection of Raumplan also in the varying or various heights of the furniture. He designed or he put the various parts or the various objects to the interior to serve to a wide range of functions. So to say, sometimes you want to have a relaxing pose in the armchair. Sometimes you need to work. Sometimes you need to sit at the table to have a meal. Sometimes you want to chat with your friends. Sometimes you want to take some business colleagues of yours, and Loos created, we might even say, situations or spatial situations in the apartments to suit best those various functions. The pictures you can see here show the former dining room that was clad, as you can see, in travertine. It has been preserved more or less in the state, in the original state. I think that what didn't survive was the furniture like tables and chair. The built-in furniture mostly survived. He made partial use of the previous flat, designing the apartment for Vogels. He just added a surgery for Dr. Vogel because he was a pediatrician. He composed the furnishings in the dining room and also in the living room that you can see in the other pictures here. In actual symmetry, again, it's very visible and obvious here. So this was the axial symmetry that went along with the Klatovská Avenue, which is right behind those windows. Also, the mirror panels are, or he placed them onto the same axis. This was the bar counter in the dining room that was used for serving the meals. The wood that you can see in the living room is cherry wood, and this is green wallpaper. This is very characteristic combination of materials and also of colors that he used. And there you can see the fireplace flanked by marmor. Also, the Vogels emigrated from Czechoslovakia. They emigrated to Canada in 1939, and the house was, as was the case, quite often confiscated. In this case, it was confiscated already by the Nazi regime and used as an office building for the Reich's representation. Afterwards, it was owned by the Czechoslovak state. It continued to serve as an office building. It was also the reason that those two rooms were preserved, because they were used as a representative rooms. I can show you. There's a picture from 1983 that shows the furniture of that time. It shows there is the photo of then Czechoslovak president, the communist president Gustav Husák. You can see, or you can't see, the original carpets. There is a door leading to adjacent room, also originally designed by Loos, but that didn't survive. So you can see, you can compare the state. The interior was listed in 1969 as a cultural monument, thanks to Věra Běhalová, an art historian. Thanks to her, the interiors in Pilsen, most of them were listed in the late 60s as a cultural monuments, and thanks to that, most of them survived. So we can thank her very much for that. And he was almost the only one at the time who noticed the importance of Loos's work here in Pilsen. It wasn't until 2004 that the interiors got to or were noticed by the representation of the city of Pilsen, and in 2003 or 4 the renovation of this flat began. This interior could be visited as part of the Loos Interiors guided tours. If you come to Pilsen, you can see 4 interiors on a regular basis, and 2 more once a month, as I have already mentioned. Okay, we are getting to the second era of Adolf Loos in Pilsen. I will go on with Helena and Hugo Semler's apartment that Adolf Loos designed in the early 30s. You can see another of the historicist houses along the Klatovská Avenue. There are 3 rooms of the original flat that have survived. 2 of them were not designed by Adolf Loos, but by one of his contemporaries, also a Viennese architect, Adolf Hrusa, who was a teacher at the German secondary building school here in Pilsen. Even though it's not designed by Loos, it is quite similar. You can also see the cladding. I think this is walnut cladding on the walls. You can also see the axial or the longitudinal axis that goes through this part of the flat and along with the avenue. You can see those 3 rooms are a living room, a dining room, and a ladies' room, also called a music parlor. Which is Loosian work, or Loos's work, is this room with marble cladding on the wall, with this fireplace located right on the axis. You can see on those pictures here, and maybe we have a detailed picture. No, but if I zoom in a bit, you can see how he uses the symmetry, even in putting the desks of marble together. So it is as he cuts the marble in half and puts it into this mirror symmetry, mirror composition. The place also had its significance during the World War II, when the Semler family wasn't present anymore. It was again the same case. They moved to escape the Nazi regime. They moved to Canada, and the house was confiscated by the German army. Head of the German army, it was Lieutenant General Georg von Majewski, committed suicide in 1945, in May 1945. And I'm not sure if it was directly the Loos room or the other one. The building itself remained in the ownership of the army, not German anymore, but the Czechoslovak army. It was transferred to the city of Pilsen in 2012, or yes, in 2012, on the condition that it would be reconstructed within 10 years. It didn't happen. So if you come there, you can still see the space. It's original condition, as you can see here, with some traces of partition walls like here. But the construction project, the works on it are going quite well, and if the city has the proper finances, then it could be realized in I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. But the idea is to reconstruct the whole building and the flat itself, and to make some kind of a presentation space for Adolf Loos and also the Jewish community in Pilsen, of Gertrude and Willy Kraus in Bendova Street. Again, it's even though it's not directly on the Klatovská Avenue, it's in the very vicinity of it, just around the corner. Again, a historicist house. You can read the location of the flat because of the colorful, the green window frames that identifies the flat. It's quite typical also for Loos. It's not the only place that you can find those green windows in Pilsen, because Gertrude Kraus inherited or were given the house from her father, rich Jewish entrepreneur who owned a firm, I think chemist firm. Willy Kraus worked in the firm as a chemist and as a sales representative. Again, Loos created a space organized along the longitudinal axis. You can see how it looks now. It is another interiors that it's owned by the city of Pilsen, and the city of Pilsen initiated a reconstruction of it. It was finished in 2015. Again, nothing of the furnishings except of the built-in furniture survived. So what you can see here is a contemporary interpretation of the dining space here, and this space originally served as a living room, and now it was transformed into sort of a cultural space, so that to that let's say public use corresponds the sitting furniture here. You can see the high polished mahogany ceiling that is of course original, as well as the Cipollino marble that Loos applied to part of the walls. Again, the mirror panels that makes the whole space indefinite. I'm not sure if I'm using the correct word, but there are mirrors on both ends of the space, and it mirrors itself in indefinite way. Again, fireplace, the brick, the bricks that create quite interesting contrast with this very luxurious marble. You can see also that the only ornament shown or presented or applied here is the inner drawing of the Cipollino marble, and also it is the effects, the structure of the wood that Loos uses. It's very very impressive. This is the original state. Maybe not 100% original, because the picture comes from the 60s, but it shows how it looked. You can see that ornament is presented here on the carpet, or on the carpets, and also on the decorative objects that were put into the glass boxes here, and also that the chairs, maybe they were not original. I can't be, or I'm not sure in this case, but I'm sure that Loos wouldn't protest, that Loos would go with this very decorative kind of furniture. Again, 1998 picture. This is nice detail that you can still find there. Another detail. The fate of Kraus family wasn't as fortunate as it was the case of Hirsch family, or Vogel's family, or Semmler's family. I mean, at least in the terms of escaping the Nazi regime. Karl Kraus was able to escape. He went to London in 1939, and he wanted his family to come to him, but they didn't make it. And his wife and his kids, they had 2 children. They all died in the concentration camps in Poland. He came back to Czechoslovakia, but eventually he returned to the Great Britain, and the house was confiscated by the state. This is also the reason it's owned by the city now. The house of Hedvika Lipštejnová and Jana and Jan Brummel. This is a house that was not, or is not located, not located on the Klatovská Avenue. Maybe if I zoom out, you can see it. Is the, I think, a part or a realization that is far from Klatovská Avenue, but still you can make it in 10 minutes, maybe on foot. What's interesting is that it's the first work where his I mean Adolf Loos's work is not visible only in the interior, but you can see it from the exterior. The commission was not only to design a new interior, but to design new part of the house. It was not only work by Adolf Loos, but also by his younger colleague and admirer Karel Hota, who at that time worked here in Pilsen at the secondary school of building as a teacher. He wasn't a leading figure of Czech architecture, but he was a very eager promoter of Loos's work in Czechoslovakia, and especially in Pilsen. You can see that the extension is quite visible, that it's different somehow from the original part of the house, but this was the original plan for the extension. And you can see that the original facade was more decorative. It was quite usual historicist facade, and Hota and Loos wanted to put a really modern looking or really purist volume to the original house. And the reason that it looks now like this was not their, it was not their their thought, their design, but they were the municipal building authority made them to modernize the original facade to make it more similar to the new volume. So originally they didn't want it, they wanted to have it in this very strong contrast, but the authority said no, make it like make the old part more contextual to the new part. The new part is subordinated to axial symmetry, which you can't see here. This is the original project, but you can see it. You can see it here on this front facade of the extension, and then you can see it on those pictures here. So I said subordinated to the axial symmetry. It is the case in the ground floor, but in the upper floor, the axial symmetry applied to this street part of the building. I'm not sure if you use in English the word tract, but it's the half of the constructional half of the building that faces the street. So this is this facade is a combination of let's say two axial symmetries. The house, you can, if I'm showing the pictures, I will show you also the garden facade. It's quite visible that this is the original part. They Loos and Hota made a larger window here because there's the stair located there, and this is the new part, the extension. What you can't see it from the street is the shape, the traditional shape of the roof here. If you are, if you go along the street, if you look at the house from the street, you can't see that. You can think that there is a flat roof because they hide the traditional roof with this cornice, with this high or cornice attic, so that it's not visible. This this part of the building, the extension, has flat roof according to the modern architecture principles. So, and the interior. This is the stair that you use for coming to the piano nobile. Again, the ground floor was used for the purposes of the firm that belonged to or originally Mr. Riebstein, and then to the Brno family. And in the design of the stairs, the architects were inspired by the Goethe house in Weimar. So this is another example of admiration of Adolf Loos, or Adolf Loos's admiration of architectural history. You can see the characteristic form of lamps here. You can see again the green belt going around the space. In this case, it's not wallpaper, but a paint. And this is the first room, which is on the axis. I will show you the longitudinal axis. Again, it can remind us the Baroque principle of enfilade. So organizing the rooms onto the axis and joining the rooms with this great entrances that can be open open at the same time, and then they create sort of a flowing space. Not the same principle as with the functionalist architecture, but still it's somehow joining the spaces. This is quite extraordinary. It's a copy or how to put it, like a copy or a replica of Renaissance fireplace that you would find in Provence, and it was it was placed there because of the investors. They liked it, so Loos and Lhota just make it part of this composition. The walls are paneled with dark oak. The main main room is this dining room, which also served for meeting the two families, or meeting the Brummel family. With Hedvika Liebsteinova, it was Jana Brumelova's mother, and she had two rooms here and her own bathroom. The rest of the floor were used by the Brummel couple. They had also their own bathroom, and they could meet one another or each other in this great room. Even though originally Loos wanted to clad the walls and the columns here, they don't have any static function. They serve only like a division, sort of a division of the space. He wanted marble again, but the marble was used in the Villa Müller in Prague, and because Mr. Liebstein and Mr. Brummel were merchants with wood, or they were in the wood business, it was wood that was applied here in this case. It is Canadian poplar wood, roots of Canadian poplar. Again, carpets, green color, used not only on the walls but also on the floors. Now we are entering the parlor of Hedvika Liebsteinova. You can see the very bright colors that Loos and Lhota applied here. But if I am mentioning Lhota, I am quite sure that the design of the inner environment of the interior was designed by Loos only. That it was his influence was so strong that even if it was designed by Lhota, he would follow his master's principles. But it was designed by Loos, I'm quite sure. You can see again a fireplace here, not on the longitudinal axis, obviously, but still it is there because it was part of the modern living space, according to Loos. Very bright yellow color. Again, wallpaper used to the upper part of the walls. What is quite interesting is that it's not original wallpaper. It was designed, or it was produced after or according to the original one. But you can see that it's kind of geometric, abstract ornament. So again, some interpretation, some contemporary at that time interpretation of ornament. So we can say that ornament is not rejected completely by laws. It can be somehow used in an interior. And this is Hedvika Liebsteinova's bedroom. This house is in private ownership. It belongs to the nephew of the family of the Brno couple, because they didn't have any kids. They survived the concentration camps in during the World War II. They came back to the house. They could use it, even though part of the house was kind of confiscated by the state, and they need to share the original flat with other people living there, but still they could use it. And the nephew, who is about or more than 18 years old now and lives in Prague, still comes sometimes to the house and sleeps on this couch, this built-in couch. But nevertheless, you can visit the house. It's visible or accessible in the same way as the apartments owned by the city are. Similar residents, which is another example when you can see Loos's work not only from inside but also from the outside. It is the garden apartment house of Jana and Oskar Semler with a built-in maisonette flat. The house itself was built for the Škoda plant. It was a huge factory, huge company, machinery mostly company, that built it for their officers. The similar couple bought the house in the early 30s and commissioned Loos with the design of their spacious flat. The rest of the house was still used as an apartment building. This extension with the winter garden is one of the examples of Loos's work that were added to the original building. Again, you can see the green window frames. And there is another part that was added to the original house. It is entrance to their private part. So there was an entrance for the other people living in the building, and the Semlers had their own entrance. They used two floors, the ground floor and the upper floor in this part of the building. So even though you can see green windows here, it wasn't part of the flat. Now, this is the main space of the flat, or also of the whole building. It was the living space. It was designed to make a grand living room also for the, so to say, social events, social representation of the family. Again, a fireplace on the longitudinal axis, and now it is this is the only only example of so-called Raumplan used in Pilsen, because there is a gallery, sort of a gallery here that you can enter. You can enter using the stairs in the back part of the building. You can see it here. The pictures were taken in 2004. Nowadays, the whole building with the Semler's flat goes through reconstruction and renovation. It should be finished in the end of this year or in the beginning of next year. So if you come to Pilsen in 2022 or later, you should be able to visit the renovated interior. It will look very, very nice. Again, you can see wood cladding applied to the walls. This is the stairs I was talking about, and this is the gallery with very unique, or at least in terms of Loos's design, unique red golden ceiling. The reason for this particular part of the interior, for its form, for the colors, is that it was not designed by Loos. Loos, because the Semlers commissioned Loos in 1932, and you already know that he died in 1933, and he suffered from some serious health problems, and he wasn't able anymore to go through the whole process with the clients. He met once with them. He sketched the spatial solution. He might even sketch a little bit more. We don't know how much he worked on this very first or very initial phase of the design, but we know for sure that he met with them, and he produced some sketch. He was unique in that he was able to design the whole space in his head. He just knew, he could imagine how it will look. He didn't need to sketch this very profound spatial solutions. It's not the case with Semler's residence. It is spatially very interesting, but not as much as, for instance, Villa Müller in Prague. It's really sort of a spatial labyrinth. It's you can look through the space partially. It's very unique. Sorry, I can't find better word. This is not exactly the case, but still he was able to just to imagine the space in his head, to sketch it somehow, and let the rest of the project in the hands of, in this case, Heinrich Kulka. So Heinrich Kulka was the architect, was the author of the design, based on the sketches and also on the principles, because Kulka worked with Loos for years. He was the leader of his office in Vienna when Loos was living in France. He also attended his architecture school in 1920. So he just knew how Loos would design it, even some details. So he followed very closely Loos's principles, not 100%, and that's why That's why he designed the ceiling in this way. Loos probably wouldn't do that. But what Loos would do and did was to work with this sort of a Raumplan idea, worked with the principle of seeing seeing through the whole space. From the gallery, you can see the magnificent large windows, sort of winter gardens in itself. What's also significant is the technical solution, because the windows here were could slide into the wall downstairs. So this was the same principle that Ludwig Mies van der Rohe used in his famous Villa Tugendhat, located in Brno, where Loos was born. So in these details, Loos and Kulka especially was quite up to date, and we can in this design we can trace some influence of Mies and Villa Tugendhat in Kulka's work. This is a dining room that was adjacent to the stairs. I can show you. These are the original pictures. This is the entrance hall. What's interesting is that it was this is natural light coming through the window in the ceiling. So it's kind of a gallery type of museum type of natural lighting. This is the original state of the interior. Life of Tsongkhapa, which comes from Nepal, a painting from the 17th century. Again, you can see the characteristic armchair. And now we are looking at this picture. We are looking from the kitchen, which was very modern, very up to date, almost functionalistic. We are looking into the dining room. This is already from the 1980s, but the original kitchen survived. Again, 1998, the documentation of Natural Heritage Institute. And now I will show, here it is. This is the floor plan of the ground floor. So this is the main room, the hall/living room. This is the dining room that I have shown you, and you can see here how Loos or Kulka used or developed the original shape of this part of the room, and replicated it here, so that they created. It has 8 sides. Sorry, can't remember. This was the kitchen. This was the kitchen. This was the room for the maid. This was the gentleman's room and terrace. And if we go to the upper store, which was the sort of private space for the family, this is the gentleman's room, gentleman's bedroom. This is the parlor, or in other words, the ladies' bedroom, and this was the bathroom that was used by both of them. And you can see by this line there were doors onto the terrace, so they could meet also on the terrace. And those were rooms for their sons, and another room for the maid. I think that maid is maybe governess would be the right word. And there is those are the places used by servants. Just to finish my speech, at least my speech about this house. The fate of the family, I have already mentioned it. They emigrated to Australia. Their relatives, brother Hugo and his wife Helena, emigrated to Canada. So they spread to all over the world, so to say. They tried to restitute the building after the war, but it was not successful. So in 1950, it became the property of the city and later of the state. This apartment of theirs was divided into 4 smaller apartments, and also it was used for educating future doctors. They used some rooms in the ground floor. Later, the classroom was used as a photographic studio. As you can read with me, despite the destruction of a significant part of the interior and its furniture caused by the creation of new flats, an important portion of the built-in features and paneling was preserved. I can show you quite quickly. The pictures of the original kitchen. This is the gentleman's room. You can see the doors that lead to the outer terrace. The bathroom on the first floor, quite uniquely preserved the original parts. This was the room of the lady, I guess, and this is one of the rooms of their sons. This cladding is surely not original. The building now belongs to the Pilsen region and is administered by the Gallery of Bohemia in Pilsen, which is leading or the process of reconstruction and renovation, and they want to establish a scholarly center for research of the 19th and 20th century architecture. They also want to establish sort of a presentation space of Loos's work in Pilsen and a venue for cultural events. Yet an original a picture of the building, and you can see here the large windows of the main space of the Semler's flat. This is how it looks from the Klatowska Avenue, another building that is located right onto this axis of the city. Thank you very much. I hope that you have some questions and that I will be able to get you some answers. And I would love to meet you here in Pilsen and to show you around, not, I hope, only around the Loos's work, but also about other interesting and attractive architecture of the 20th century. Thank you very much.
So I think it was absolutely marvelous. I have all sorts of comments to make, but I don't think I will. Can I just sum up, because I mean I am an architect, and I think your remarks about the sort of about his background, and particularly his relationship maybe with people like Corbusier, and with particularly with Mies van der Rohe. I think what I found it very interesting was the fact that they both in a sense they were both quite sort of puritanical in some ways in the way that they ordered their space, in the way that they used materials, but they allowed themselves to sort of lavish a certain amount of time and effort onto very, very rich materials. And I think the Tugendhat house, of course, has the onyx wall and the I forget what it is, it's ebony or something around the dining space, which in a way is rather similar to the way that that Loos is sort of doing the same sort of thing. And I think there's an interesting commonality there. And also I thought very interesting was the way that that Loos orders his spaces, and he in contrast to, say, someone like Corbusier, who and to some extent Mies, where the structure is sort of doesn't actually define the spaces. The space flows through the structure much more than the case of Loos, where the structure sort of fixes the spaces. And I think the Raumplan idea is very interesting, and I'm interested that it only really appears once in the flats, because of course he's building in existing spaces. So I found, anyhow, those are just some one or two comments. So thank you very much indeed. I don't know if there's anybody else who'd like to add, but for the moment, thank you for taking the time to be with us. It's been absolutely marvelous.